Hey, welcome back everybody. This is Kerbal Space Program Interstellar Quests. A playthrough of KSP, obviously. Career mode. And we are trying to get Interstellar. But before that we need to go interplanetary. And that is today's mission. And before we dive into the main story, we have to pay attention to Goliath A2, the craft that brought your initial base to Duna, because it's returning. Yes, it's returning back to Kerbin, and it's going first into a low Kerbin orbit, basically to take advantage of the Oberth effect and slow down. And after that it's going to make an injection burn to the Mun, where it's going to be refilled, repaired, and prepped for the next mission. So these orbital tugs are going to be the backbone of the career playthrough. Yeah, so the whole idea behind it is that spaceflight is expensive, and by using orbital tugs we can actually reuse our spacecraft. So this is a spacecraft, I think it's about 50 to 60,000 funds, and the fuel is now practically for free when we managed to get it close to the Mun station. And the Mun has orbital fuel depots. It's got a facilities on the Mun itself to refine and create the fuel. So basically from now on this tug will deliver payloads to Duna or Dual for free. At least that's my hope. Not that we're doing bad in the sense of financial gains, we're doing pretty good. We could probably afford building the crafts, but we're saving up for larger interstellar crafts. And so this one's home. Yeah, so it's time for the main story, which is the Bale 2 arrival at Duna. If you remember, we launched this craft. When did we launch this craft? I think we launched this craft in the previous episode. Yes, we did it in the previous episode. And we had Brook Kerman as a resident pilot, Aldberry as our engineer, and Katfried Kerman as our scientists. And they made it all the way to Duna, so we're super happy that they're there. And we now have to get into an orbit. At the same time, we also have our Peregrine lander burning for Duna, and that's going to be a problem, as we will see in a minute. But for now, let's focus on the Bale, who's doing a perfect orbital insertion in equatorial orbit. And I expect they're going to do some science and scout out the sites before focusing on the other stuff. Yeah, expanding, of course, the docking tube to get ready for the lander. And get some science for the lab. Yeah, this was a problem because I was so focused on Bale that I forgot about the Peregrine lander, and it had flipped past Duna. And fortunately it had a ton of Delta V left. So here you can see me frantically capture the craft in a elliptical orbit, and then we slow her down a little bit into a sort of circular orbit, not completely circular orbit. We also want to save a little bit on Delta V, and to be truthful, I just made a mistake in circularizing, and I burned the engine a little bit too long, and yeah, we are on a suborbital trajectory. We are on an intercept course to the Bale, but there's usually two intercept points. One is a high orbit and the other one is a low orbit, and I made a small mistake. So we are 6 minutes to re-entry, and you can see me put a maneuver node on a kind of warning point that at that point of time we should really try to raise our orbit, which is now. But we are at a good intercept. We can have good alignment, and MacJeb is doing the best to dock as fast as they can. Hopefully before they reach the atmospheric altitude of Duna, which, if I am correct in remembering, something like 40,000 kilometers. And there's not a lot of drag there, but there could be enough to tear off our sailor panels, and that would be very bad, because we need those. Here we go, we are on an alignment burn. We are getting docked faster than we normally do, and by the end we'll slow down our docking procedures back to our regular half meter per second. But we made it, and now it's time to flip the craft around, use the remaining propellant in the transfer stint. We have 1 minute to re-entry. Fortunately, we've got a very powerful motor to raise our periapsis to just outside the atmosphere. Now we have time to figure things out, plot our inclination, and maybe inspect the lander, see if everything is working properly, if it survived a long trip over here, and look at the data for the landing sites and see if we are in a good inclination to line up with the base, which we are. You can see also the storms on the Duna surface, so we also decided to wait a day to have basically the storm blow past the base site, and it's now time to land. So the entire crew has transferred over into the Peregrine lander, and we have to do a couple of correction burns. This is sped up like 10 times. There was a lot of correction going on. MagJab is really bad at landing at atmospheric entry, so we're doing a a manual landing, and I'm using ScanSat data to figure out if we are on the right trajectory, and we are. I also recovered the alignment indicators, like the little square triangles which show the distance. It turned out if you press F4 by accident, you will turn them off, and you can spend a long time figuring out how to turn them back on, I can tell you that. But that is nothing of the matter right now, because Brook Kerman, Aldberry Kerman and Katfried Kerman will be the first Kerbals to land on the surface of Duna within a kilometer of their base. And Brook looks at the data, looks at the Delta V and says, you know what, I can do a better job. So they fire back up the engines and they use the MagJab guidance systems to get a lot closer. This time we are within 100 meters of the base. It's time to set foot on Duna. And Brook Kerman is the first Kerbal to descend down the ladder of the spacecraft, sharing her wisdom with the crowd, which is undoubtedly watching the television in a live broadcast, as she is the first Kerbal to land on a different planet and plant the almighty flag of the Interstellar quest, in the hopes that we can get science from this planet, so much science that it will allow us to unlock better engines. Yeah, so he's joined by Katfried. I presume this is Katfried. Kind of hard to tell from EVA yet. And Aldberry, wearing the fancy new spacesuit, being the engineer on the mission. Welcome to Duna. Yeah, so Brook is the one that makes the journey over to the base. It's a 100-meter walk. They should probably all been able to walk there, but you know what? This is a good opportunity to test out the rover. The rover that created the base and moved all the capsules over there, found a perfect landing spot. Well, maybe not perfect, judging by all the terrain collisions that we have over here. Had we moved the base, I don't know, 100 meters west, it would have been a better place, but regardless. Aldberry is transferring some instruments from the lander to the rover. Not everything, they will have to come back to get some of the additional equipment, which we'll see in a later point in the video. So we're upgrading the rover for a long duration science mission, exploring the beautiful landscape of Duna. But before that we have to see if the base is intact, and Brook is going to inspect the greenhouse. It's got an airlock, which means you can walk into the base. And well, the greenhouse looks very good. Katfried's of course far more interested in the lab, and enters that. And yeah, they're going to spend some time here, getting acquainted, growing some food, and doing some science. But after that time, it is really the moment to go. On board of the rover, we have Katfried Kerman, our resident scientist, and Aldberry, and together they are on their way to do science, climbing rocks and going to the various biomes and sites. And they have quite a drive. A little bit further down in the video you will see I have optimized the wheels, and many things got optimized during the journey, because we discovered, for example, that this mechanical scanning arm is unable to scan from that altitude. So fortunately we have a resident engineer which can move some stuff around, and now it actually works, because we've discovered some really interesting barrier-like structures. Maybe this is edible, and Katfried decides to take a sample with her as well. Yeah, so I cut out a lot of footage. They spent hours and hours driving, and I did rely also on what's it called? This autopilot, Bonjour and Rendezvous, that will allow you to drive long distances automatically. But they make it all the way to the North Pole and they have over 70 science experiments collected. So I am looking forward to getting that back home. For now, they're enjoying the landscape, spending a couple of days on the North Pole, and then making the long drive back to the base, which you can see behind the hills. This was a very tedious job. But we got there in the end, and it's time to process some of that science and bring it home with us. One of the things that the BL class struggles with is science compartments, so we brought a container over on the Peregrine lander. But I'll show you that in the next episode.